Well, we are almost at the end of the Unit 1. That is the introduction of the GST. The overall GST, what it is, we have already discussed. Whatever there in our syllabus. Now there is a review of entire GST introductions, whatever there in the first unit. So now we will discuss what we taught already in GST. Mostly what it is, what are the features, what are the characteristics, advantage, disadvantage, limitations, the impact, mostly the impact of GST in the economy. So overall, the review we will discuss in today's class. Now see, this is the review of GST. First of all, let us discuss the characteristics and the special features of GST. Okay, the special features of GST. What are the main characteristics of the GST? As we have already discussed that GST removed the cascading effect, that is the dual taxation effect. The first and foremost GST characteristics or the features, if we say, then the first and foremost thing what will come, that is the removal of the cascading effect. Now let us see one by one the review of these features, the characteristics. That is the separately we can say the first of all goods. What is the characteristics of GST on goods? Because goods are separately has been calculated for GST and services for the separately. So for goods, you see, every kind of movable property, the GST is applicable. Every kind of movable property. But in spite and includes the actionable claims, growing crops, grass and things attached to or forming a part of the land, except securities and money. So money is an asset, money is also a property. But money and securities are not included in GST. Fine. So GST includes only the movable properties, including crops, grass, things, claims, everything, except the monies and securities. So just we have to remember here only 2 points. One is money, another is securities. So GST is not implemented for the money as well as for the securities. Other than that, whatever the goods are there, it is implemented. That is the first characteristics of the GST. Secondly, only the main important point I would like to discuss with you. So secondly, the most important point is the dual GST model. GST model is divided into two parts, okay, which is known as CGST, SGST. It is divided into two parts. The central government also charged a tax as well as the state government also charged a tax. So that's why we have to give two type of tax once. One time we have to pay two type of tax. One will go to the state government, another will go to the central government because developmental work take place in state as well as in the central. So few works are there which has been approved by the central. So that's why the central need funds. Few things are there which has been developed by the state where there is no say of central. So in that case, state government needs their own fund. That revenue collections comes from the tax. SGST, state goods and service tax, as well as CGST, central goods and service tax. That is why if you see in a bill, if you see in an invoice, you can see at the end of the amount, it is written CGST, SGST, because the revenue collected from by the way of tax from the customers, from the retailers, from the wholesalers will separately go to central government as well as the state government. So the another most important characteristics of GST is what? It has dual effect. It is divided into two parts. So remember, please remember the second point. Next, you just see destination based tax. This tax is totally destination based. It is not collected on any of the things and in every steps. There is a destination. So only one retailer, one wholesaler, one selling. So this is totally a destination based tax. It is not collected in each and every steps. Only one destinations and there only the tax has been imposed, levied. That is why the next point you just see, no GST on export. There is no GST on export. GST is there on each and every import, but GST is not there on export. We will discuss these things later on. Just remember that GST is not there on export. It is a very good news for India. This is a very good news for economy. It has a very good advantage, impact on the economy of our country. Let us go for the third point. Taxes are paid for both state and central government. As I told you in the earlier slide that this tax is divided into two parts. That is why it is known as the dual tax, central as well as state. And what has been said here, GST is applicable for state as well as the central government. That means the entire tax has been divided into two parts. One part will go to the state, another part will go to the central government. Fine. Next, GST is applicable for all import. Now you see in this point, we can discuss the export and import now. As we all know that what is export? Whatever produced in our country, if we sell it in the outside country, then definitely our economy will develop. We are able to earn more and more money from the outside countries. So to encourage the export, more and more export from India, which develops the economy of the country, this GST, the government has implemented a rule not to charge any GST on the export product. Whereas any sort of import goods which comes from the outside countries to our country, we have to pay them. That means there is an outflow of cash, outflow of revenue. So in case of outflow of revenue, if outflow is more and the inflow is less, then what will happen? Definitely it has a bad impact in the economy. When inflow is more and outflow is less, then there is a good economic condition. Outflow is less and our inflow is more. When it happens? When the export is more, we are sending the goods from our country to the other country and thereby selling all those goods, we are earning the money. In that case, the inflow of the cash will be more in our economy. The same way, if the import is more, then what will happen? The commodities will come to our country more and more and more, which happens in the earlier decades. But now the government has decided to encourage the export to each and everybody, to each and every trader. Now it is free to do. And that is why what they have did, this GST has been removed from the export to encourage the exporter as well as to increase the economy of our country. So that is why it has said that no GST on export, but GST is applicable for import. If GST is not implemented in the import goods, then what would have happened? Definitely, the people will import the goods from other country without any restrictions. And once there is no bar, once there is no restrictions in importing the goods from the outside countries, so what will happen? Our cash will outflow. Our cash will outflow like anything. Everybody can buy from outside and the cash will go to the other countries and we are unable to control the economy of the country. So there is restrictions in import which has been imposed by the central government as well as the state government, so that you have to pay the GST, that to a high rate. It is of course decided by the central government on the basis of the goods imported. from the outside. And few things, of course, there is total restriction of importing from the outside. There is the government has not given any permission to import all those goods to India. Now, next point, ITC is allowed for taxes paid. ITC is allowed for taxes paid. We have already discussed regarding that. Next point, let us say, taxpayer has to maintain proper records for all the tax he has paid, because on the basis of the tax payment only, the calculations, the financial statements, the ultimate calculations of the incomes has been calculated, and that on the basis of that only the total revenue earned and the total revenue expended will be calculated. So each and every taxpayer has to calculate has to maintain their proper record on the tax, how much he paid. If one person maintain the tax record, each and every individual, if they maintain the tax record, then what will happen? The same record will be there in the government register also, because we have to submit it. Each and every individual, each and every trader, each and every businessman has to submit their tax report to the government when the government calculate the tax. So at that time, it is quite easy to find out the total tax payable by the government and receivable by the government. So ultimately, they can do the social welfare work and developmental work once they come to know the total amount of the tax, total amount of the revenue collected through the tax from the individual. So this record is mandatory. Maintain a proper records of taxes mandatory for each and every taxpayers, so that they can submit the proper record, transfer in record to the government, and accordingly government can calculate the entire amount of the tax. Next, the administration of GST is under the GST Council. The entire administrations, the control, collections, control, everything is there in the hand of the GST Council. Remember, GST Council has entire documents with them through which they can control the taxpayers. Right? Though the rules and regulations always prepared by the GST Council. Next, the tax rate of goods and services shall be determined by the GST Council. As I told you, not only the controlling the GST, the tax council, the GST Council has also determined the rate of taxes given by an individual for different business, for different products. It is different. It varies from person to person. It varies from product to product. And this variation has been determined by the GST Council. So, this is the overview of characteristics, features of a tax council, features of the GST, goods and service tax. So, here the most important point is what you know. Number one, GST has dual effect. One is CGST, another is SGST. Secondly, GST is imposed on import items and it has been removed, or GST is not applicable in case of the export items. Okay, these are the two very important points. And thirdly, entire control and collection of GST has been done by GST Council. GST Council has decided the entire control, entire tax calculations and rules and regulations implementations GST Council has decided. So this is the review of the characteristics, features of the GST.